What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another match review for you guys today. We have beaten Crystal Palace by 3-1 yesterday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We got all the usual bits of content coming for you today. Player ratings, match review, 5 takeaways, reacts. We'll get into the review first. We had a bit of a different experience yesterday, sitting in the H Club, not sitting in the South Stand yesterday. And it's quite amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had an unbelievable day. We were served very, very well by the Spurs staff, and having the 5-course meal was incredible. They had just non-stop flowing alcohol. It was a real unbelievable experience.
You feeling it today?
A bit, maybe a bit. I don't remember what happened. Did we win? Yeah. No, I'm joking. But it was really, really amazing. And if you watch the vlog, you'll see what kind of an amazing experience it is. And we had the privilege. Luckily, we were invited by someone who doesn't want to be named. He wants to be remain anonymous, but we were invited by them to join them in the H Club, and it was a privilege to be there. It was really wonderful.
It really was, and really nice touches as well from the club, bringing in legends and them greeting you. And at the end of the game, wasn't it, like Gary Mabbutt came in to talk to us, Mickey Hazard came in to talk to Ozzy Ardiles as well.
The original Tottenham Aussie.
The original Tottenham Aussie. And we've even got an interview with James Maddison. Obviously, we didn't interview him, but Paul Coyt did for the whole of the corporate kind of space. Cliff Jones singing "It's a Grand Old Team to Play For." It was just a really nice day yesterday, wasn't it?
It was nice. And we said hi to Paul Coyt as well. Really lovely to see him. We've seen him a few times over the years. We've gotten to know each other a bit, and we saw Ben Haynes and Rob Daly after the game as well, which was really, really nice. So it was just an all-round great day.
Yeah, it really was, and we got 3 points, which was the main thing. But look, let's get into the match review. There's been a lot said about the game. Maybe at halftime, a lot of Spurs fans were a bit annoyed, a bit angry for not creating as many chances as we probably should have, which is true. I do think we didn't create anywhere near as much in the first half, maybe, as we should have. We had that chance from Timo Werner when he goes around the keeper, doesn't score. But I think on reflection of the game, when you look at it, the whole 90 minutes, I think it was a pure domination job from minute 1 right until the end of the game. I think we completely dominated that game, didn't we?
Yeah, and we obviously had a lot of the ball. I think that was the plan for Palace, allow Tottenham to have possession, make sure they're playing the whole game in front of you, and make sure that you're very well organised. Their back 5 was very much a back 5 instead of 3 centre-backs and 2 wing-backs. Mitchell and Munez, or what's his name? Nunez, the right back. Munoz. They barely went forward. They barely adventured into our half. When they did, they didn't look very comfortable. They looked much more comfortable when they were defending in their own half. Obviously, you had Lerma and Wharton sitting in front, though, back 3 as well. So you literally had a back 5, and then also Eze and Ayew were tracking back the whole time. Pretty much a lot of the time, it was just Mateta up by himself, and he was causing us a bit of trouble. Remember, Van de Ven looked like he picked up an injury in that first half, dealing with Mateta a couple of times. He threatened on the counter, but obviously he didn't really fashion any sort of opportunities or anything like that. We were containing Palace pretty well, but going forward, it was really, really difficult to break them down. They were really restricting any sort of space we had in the centre. The only kind of chances we were able to make were from the transitions. Obviously, we had a transition from a corner, which Timo Werner had that chance you talked about, where he went through one-on-one. With a beautiful pass, by the way, from Sonny to play him through on goal. And it's classic Werner, when he has too much time to think about something, he overthinks it and ends up missing the chance, which he did yesterday. And then the other chance we had was... Basuma plays it forward to Maddison. He plays out wide to Kulusevski. He actually found Emerson in some good space, but Emerson wasn't able to pick out Son. But it was another kind of transitional moment. But when Palace were organised, when they were set in their defence, we had very little answer, to be honest. It was really difficult to kind of get any sort of opportunities in that first half.
Yeah, and I think it was a case yesterday where, like I said before, at halftime, a lot of fans were frustrated with the way that we couldn't break down a Palace team. But with the way that they were set up, three centre-backs on the pitch, basically a back 4 up, and then in the midfield was like a straight back, midfield 4. It was like incredibly difficult to break down a team with so many men. But what I liked about Spurs yesterday is that we kept going, and we finally blew that house down. 3 goals in the last 11 minutes or whatever it was, 12 minutes. But I do think that Spurs came out with a bit of a renewed sense of energy in that second half. As much as maybe for the first half an hour or first 25 minutes of the second half, we weren't getting the goals. I think we were creating the chances. Sonny hit the post. Timo Werner was putting in some lovely crosses. And I would say there was a massive difference from Timo Werner from the first half to the second half. I thought in the first half, he was probably our most player that looked like a chance was going to come from. He was getting the ball. He was attacking his man. It's just his end product was pretty poor. But I think that changed in the second half where he was putting in good deliveries. He got his goal as well, first goal for the football club. And in that second half, that was by far his best display in a Spurs shirt.
Well, the difference was he was trying to get to the byline in that second half as many times as possible whenever he got the ball. In that first half, he would pick up the ball and he kept checking back. He kept passing it back to a free player instead of really committing the defender. And that was a big difference, I felt, in that second half of Timo Werner. I don't know if maybe it was instruction from Ange, but I felt like in that second half, every time he got the ball, he was going down the line and he was asking different questions of the Palace defence, and they struggled to deal with it. And I actually thought his delivery was pretty good. He set up a chance for Brendan Johnson, who fired over the bar. He had that one that flashed across the face of goal, which, if Brendan Johnson was on at that time, maybe he'd be tapping it home with the back post.
I think Kulu's got to be doing better to try and get there, though.
As I'm saying, he wasn't there at the back post, and so he had a few moments like that, obviously, and then he got his goal, and he also had another shot which Sam Johnson, he forced a save out of Sam Johnson as well in that second half. So much improved performance, but it was hairy because at 0-0, having struggled to break down Palace, I know first 15 minutes of the second half we did all right. We hit the post, we had a few openings, but still at that point it'd been fairly difficult to break Palace, and I actually felt at that point they were fairly comfortable at stifling us. And then they get that free kick. Eze puts Eze on a counter, gets fouled on the edge of the box from Bentancur.
Stupid foul to give away from Rodrigo.
It's difficult to say because I think Eze was going somewhere. It's not like he wasn't in a dangerous position.
I think there were many men around him, and I think he would have been stopped, to be honest. And I think it was a bit reckless from Rodrigo. But what was annoying?
But if he doesn't foul him and he goes and scores, you say, bring him down.
I get that, but I do think he would have been stopped. Van der Ven, Eze was dominating. Van der Ven was dominating everyone in those areas of the pitch all day long, and I do think there were many more men around him where Bentancur probably didn't need to hack him at that point, and it was, Eze can put them in from there. We've seen it time and time again. And what was Vicario doing with that wall for the free kick?
I think Vicario has to take a bit of responsibility for that goal, to be honest, because I think they should have read what was going to happen, because Palace clearly set up that second wall because they wanted to block Vicario's view.
He had a clear shot just in that area.
They set up a second wall. Usually the teams do that because they want to block the view of the goalkeeper because the free kick taker is set to go the goalkeeper's side. That's usually the indication. So he should have seen that coming. And what was really disappointing is when Eze was stepping up, Vicario made a step to his right as if to be ready for the ball to go over the wall. Yeah. And then Eze did what Vicario should be inspecting, which he went goal side. And Vicario, once he made one step to the right, he couldn't quite make it back to his side. So I thought it was a bit disappointing. If he would have stuck his position and would have realised that Eze is very likely to go his side, he probably would have stopped it, but he kind of jumped the gun a bit.
And the wall was so far over to the left-hand side, or the keeper's right-hand side. I didn't understand why it was so far over. It didn't need to be that far over.
Because that's how it is. That's how most goalkeepers set up their wall. They put it over.
It was too far over, though, is what I'm saying. They should have shifted over a bit more to the right. Like, there was a lot of the side of the goal was being blocked, not even the whole of the left-hand side of the goal. It was way too far over that wall.
I'll have to look at that again. I didn't notice that. But in terms of where the free kick went, Vicario should, I think, not taking anything away from Eze. It was a brilliant strike. It was right in the corner. Really, really good effort.
If Vicario doesn't take that step over to the right-hand side, he saves it.
I think he saves it, It was in the corner, but he should be saving it, really. I think he'll be disappointed in himself. So at that point, Eze's put them 1-0 up. We've struggled to break them down, and it was looking very, very difficult to see how Spurs were going to turn this around and how we were going to get back on top. But luckily for us, I think the arrival of Brendan Johnson was a big turning point in the game.
Yeah, it was. He changed the game completely. And I was saying to the guy next to me that I always felt like Spurs were going to score a goal. And once you get that one goal, it was very likely probably another goal was going to follow that. And that's exactly what did happen. Brennan Johnson came on straight away. He was being very aggressive, attacking those spaces. Joachim Andersen didn't really know how to deal with him in that moment of time. I did think maybe he got a bit fortuitous, maybe to beat that second man. But nonetheless, I think it was his endeavour that really got us in those moments, in those areas of the pitch, and a lovely ball in the back post of Timo Werner.
Yeah, it was a brilliant work for him, because you've got to remember, Andersen has the ball in very little danger, and Johnson's kind of chasing a lost cause, and he's able to nick the ball off him, then get around him, then ride another challenge, maybe a bit fortuitously, but if he doesn't go into that challenge full throttle, he doesn't come away with it, and then he has the presence of mind to pick out Werner at the back post, right on cue, and right on the spot as well. Perfect pass. And look, Johnson's shown he's adept to those pullbacks now. He's done it a few times already for Spurs, and actually, to be fair to Johnson, he got an assist for the third goal as well. So that's now 6 assists, 3 goals and 6 assists all of a sudden. So you look at his numbers, that's 9 goal contributions this season so far. Obviously, you still want it to be better, but he's starting to get them fairly regularly. And also, it's his 5th goal contribution off the bench. So he's really showing he's a very effective bench option for us. The fact, I think he's got 2 goals and 3 assists off the bench, so really effective when he comes off the bench. And I thought he was really great in that second half. In the last 15 minutes or so against Palace, I thought they struggled to deal with him. And I also felt like obviously putting Kulu in the centre again gave us that a bit more creativity, a bit more options, and it was a lot harder for Palace to contain us. But it does beg the question. It's happened a few times now where we've started Kulu like on the right, and obviously Bentancur or Sarr next to Maddison, and then it seems to be the case more often than not that it's not going right, and Ange is forced to put Kulu back in the centre next to Maddison or Celso.
It's whoever we start on the right-hand side just doesn't, kick on from the off. When Brendan Johnson starts on the right, he plays poorly. When Kulu starts on the right, he plays poorly. I mean, I don't know what it is. I can't really put my finger on it. And then we make changes, and like you said, Brendan Johnson has been a brilliant option off the bench. It's just when he starts is kind of the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, but we do see it, for me, like we do seem to look better when we have like kind of two kind of number 10 / 2 very attacking midfielders like a Maddison next to like a Kulusevski. So I do wonder whether Ange will consider, maybe not against Villa, but maybe consider going forward in games like this, like Palace, he does start with 2 number 10s, because it seems to be a pattern that we struggle to break the team down, then he's forced to go in that direction, and then we get a bit more joy, and all of a sudden we look a lot more creative. So maybe in these kind of games, he has to have the foresight to maybe start with a bit more of an attacking lineup to really force the issue early on, rather than wait till we're chasing the game. And then
he has done it before, though, hasn't he? Like when we had all of those injuries, I think against Villa at home, he did it, didn't he? Kulusevski, Giovanni Lo Celso in the middle of the park. So maybe it's something he has to go back to. And you've got to remember, in that game against Villa, we were at like our creative and attacking best in those first 20-25 minutes before Bentancur went off. So there's definitely a case for it.
Yeah, I felt like he did that because of our injuries, though. He didn't do it because that's how he wants. Well, I haven't seen evidence he's done that because maybe that's how he wants to play. Albeit, I remember against City, he did start it like that. I think it was Lo Celso next to Kulusevski, and then he changed it at half time. He brought Højbjerg on, I remember. But I'm just thinking, I'm not saying in every game, I'm just thinking in games like this, Palace at home, where they're going to sit 5, you maybe start with that. And I think that maybe, because he keeps having to go back to it. So you might as well, I think, maybe start with it if that's what seems to be working against these teams, and then maybe against the better teams like the Villa, you can go, add a Sarr or Bentancur with a bit more box to box and a bit more steel.
I just thought Crystal Palace were going to offer a lot more than what they did yesterday, especially with Eze on the breakaways and stuff like that. And I felt we stifled them so well. And Mickey van de Ven and Coutinho Romero were brilliant. The fullbacks as well, from a defensive point of view, Emerson and Udogie, I thought both played really well, particularly Emerson. I mean, Emerson got Romero out of jail at a point in the first half with a lovely last gasp challenge where Palace could have scored if he didn't put that challenge in. So for all the kind of criticism that Emerson gets, I think he put in a really good display yesterday, albeit, on the ball, progressing the ball up the field. you know what you're going to get with Emerson, and we saw that yesterday. But from a defensive standpoint, I thought that was our best defensive display in a long time.
Yeah, much better than the Wolves game, and I actually felt he dealt with Eze fairly well when there was opportunities for Eze to take him on. I thought he was up to the challenge, and actually he was a bit involved. I mean, not massively, but in the first goal, obviously he played that ball over the top looking for Johnson, which obviously forced a mistake out of Anderson, so a bit involved in that goal. He made a very good run in that first half, which nearly led to a chance for Sonny to put us 1-0 up. So much better than the Wolves game. Obviously, he still has his deficiencies, but maybe you got to sometimes players you got to give him a bit of a break for the Wolves game, because he's probably been so long since he's played and even started in that right back position. Sometimes it takes a player 90 minutes or so to get back into their rhythm, and he looked a lot more into his rhythm in this game, a lot more assured in possession. Still, obviously not perfect, he's not Porro level or anything like that, but he was a lot more assured, a lot less of like a liability than he was in that Wolves game, where he was just losing the ball for fun and was actually getting beaten quite easily defensively as well. So that was really positive that he was able to step in and actually put in a pretty good display.
Yeah, and then we spoke about the Timo Werner goal, which was great, and 3 minutes later Spurs are in the lead. A lovely dink to ball over the top from James Maddison, and Cuti Romero's there to give the keeper no chance really with that header. I thought brilliant header into the back post from Cuti Romero, and that's 4 goals this season for Romero.
Goals, yeah.
Can you remember a time a centre-back has scored 4 or more goals for Spurs? Because I can't.
Ooh, I think potentially in Vertonghen's first season at Tottenham.
That's a long time ago. 2012 you're talking about.
Yeah, 2012. That's probably the last time I can think of it.
Did he even get 4 goals? Because I remember he came in with a big reputation of that. He scores a lot of goals.
I remember he scored a brace at Anfield.
Yeah.
And I remember he scored that great goal
at
against
Old Trafford.
He scored at Old Trafford, and he scored that great goal against Swansea where he flicked it, where Bale played it over the top.
Yeah. I know.
I think that was like 4 goals. Maybe there was a 5th one in there as well. But I think since that season, maybe Toby, one season as well. He might have got 3 or 4 goals one season. Apart from that, yeah, very rare. And he's been really stepping up. And actually, looking at the goal as well, it was not an easy goal. Obviously, first of all, the Maddison lobbed assist was really fantastic pass. Like he had to get that right, because a bit more power, and that's very easily going into the keeper's arms. A bit less power, and the defender very easily clears that. So it had to be really pinpoint to get it around Romero's head. But Romero had a lot to do it, even when it got to him, because there wasn't that much power on that pass from Maddison. As much as it was pinpoint, he had to really just glance it with perfection right into the corner, and you could see Johnston was so close to it. If the header wasn't right in the corner, then Johnston easily saves it. So it was actually a really great glancing header from Romero. Did really well to get up early, get up ahead of, I think it was Joel Ward, get up ahead of the defender and just glance it in. And you know what? We've actually, again, it's a bit of a pattern with us at home when we score goals. Sometimes it does come in bunches. I remember a few times. I remember Bournemouth at home, Brentford at home, Everton at home, so a few times. It's like when we score one, our tails get up and then we go and get another. So we're quite good at capitalizing on momentum. It seems like at home when we're on top. So that's something really positive, and obviously we took full advantage of that against. Yesterday. Yeah,
and straight after the goal, we make those changes. Pat Matej comes on, Højbjerg comes on for Werner and for Maddison. And then a few minutes later, Heung-min Son's bearing down on goal, and you just had no doubt in your mind that he was going to miss that. I mean, unbelievable finish. That's straight out the Heung-min Son playbook. He basically just showed Timo Werner how to do it, basically, because it was very similar chance to what Timo Werner had in the first half, but Werner made a bit of a cock up of it, and Heung-min Son, at his clinical best, just slotted it into the bottom right-hand corner, and it was great to see Sonny back on the score sheet. His first goal since coming back from the Asia Cup.
Yeah, it was essentially like the same chance as Werner, and you saw just the confidence Sonny had. Werner tried to do too much. I think he thought the keeper was going to come out, he was going to round him, but the keeper didn't actually commit himself as much as he thought. But when Sonny looks at it, pretty much the same position, but he went to slot it home instead of overcomplicating it, trying to round the keeper and all these different things. He just went to slot it home because he knows what a great finisher he is. So it definitely showed Werner what to do in that kind of situation. But Sonny, when he gets there, as you say, he's the most clinical finisher there is. And that's also the difference between having someone like him up front and Richarlison, because I don't think if Richarlison's in that same position, I think two things. Number one, I don't think he would have had the pace to really get away from the defender like Son did. And number two, I don't know if he would have had the composure to finish like Son did in that kind of situation. There's a reason why I think out of Richarlison's 10 goals, I think apart from one, they've all been one-time finishes, because he doesn't like to think about his finishes. In fact, didn't he have a similar one not so long ago against like Brighton, where he went for a one-on-one a bit too much time and couldn't finish it. So that's what someone like Son gives you when he plays that number 9. When he's getting in behind and he's got a chance at that, 9 times out of 10 he buries it. Well, on the flip side, he did struggle, I felt, to get the opportunities that maybe Richarlison would have had in that number 9 position for those first time finishes, which I felt Palace were able to stifle him when we were kind of putting crosses in the box and trying to get him involved. Apart from when Son came deep a bit, he wasn't able to get on the end of any sort of cross in the box, which obviously that's what Richarlison gives you. So there is a bit of give and take, but it was nice to see Son back in the front line, to be back in the number 9. I thought he had a pretty good game overall.
He did, and it was his ball that played Werner through in the first half, which was a lovely ball, by the way. It really was. And I think that was pretty much the only kind of real good attacking bit of play from Sonny that we saw in that first half. But second half, I thought he came alive a lot more. That movement to create the space for Timo Werner for his goal, I thought was absolutely brilliant. Bit of genius from Heung-min Son. He hit the post as well. So, on another day, Sonny could have had more goals, to be honest. And I think that you saw the real value of him as having number 9, especially when Palace tucked up the pitch a little bit more. Not only is he there to run in behind, but he's there to play those balls through in behind as well. So I think it was a really good display from Heung-min Son. And he's just like, when Richarlison's there, you need those instinctual finishes where you need to get in those right spaces at the right moment at the right time, where Sonny, I think he can do it all, to be honest, apart from maybe cross it in the box in the air and him to win the headers. That's the only thing that I think probably Richarlison has over him.
I'm very much looking forward to see. I think obviously if Richarlison can't play next week, I'm much looking forward to see how Son gets with
against that high line,
high line of Villa, especially if Longley is going to be starting, because I think he's going to be licking his lips at that. And if you remember the game at Tottenham Stadium, I think didn't he score like a hat-trick of offside goals, didn't he, Heung-min Son? So like a few of the times it was just an inch or two in it where he could have been in behind. So I think getting Son that one game up front in lieu to next week was going to be very important, and it's going to be a massive game next week. But yeah, I think, what was it now, 13 goals in the league and 6 assists for Sonny, so, and keeps up that astonishing goal contributions that he's been having this season, and I think he's been absolutely fantastic. So I'm enjoying it, and there's another great finish from him, and it sealed off the win really well. And I think, yeah, after that you seal the third goal and you come away feeling it was a really well-deserved victory, and we played some really nice football at times. But I don't think you can forget the struggles we did have in the first 70 minutes. Not struggles in terms of... I thought yesterday was the first time we had real good control of a game for the first time. We've had games where we've had possession, but we've given away chances and we haven't been able to control the game, even with lots of possession. But yesterday was a bit different. We had lots of possession, and yes, we didn't create that much, but at least we controlled the opposition, didn't give up too many chances, even though we did go 1-0 down. We contained them really well. And then once the pressure was too great for Palace, the pressure told, and we ended up getting the victory. So it was a lot better overall, I felt, than definitely the Wolves game. And even some home games we've won in previous weeks, it was probably a better performance on those as well. And let's hope we can build on that going for the last 12 games of the season.
But how many times have you seen like a team like Palace that set up the way they do, just stifle real top teams? They've done it to Man City so many times. I'm pretty sure they've done it to Arsenal over the previous years as well. And what good teams do, they don't stop, they keep going, and they finally find a way to break down that barrier. And that's exactly what we did yesterday. So I don't think it was like a vintage Tottenham display by any stretch of the imagination, but it was pure domination. We got the job done, and it was very much a deserved victory for Tottenham yesterday. And I think it was probably, when you're looking at the form Spurs are on, it was our best display for a while now.
Yeah, probably our most complete display, I would say, probably since the Newcastle game, where we beat them 4-1.
And that Newcastle game was when?
December
was early December.
Yeah,
so it's a while now.
It's a while since we've had a game where we've just been on top, but it wasn't even yesterday wasn't exactly a comfortable victory because you have to still left it late. But obviously the first time we've won by 2. And when was the last time we won by more than 2?
Last time we won by more than 2
or
was
2 or more, sorry.
Bournemouth.
That was also
3-1.
And that was also a close game.
Yeah.
That could have, Bournemouth were well in that game.
So before Bournemouth was Newcastle.
Yeah.
Was Forest and Newcastle.
So it's, these victories are not easy to come by, unless they're very, very tight. And this game was very tight, but luckily we still did with the third goal late on. But look, I'm happy. I'm happy with the performance. I'm happy with the football he played. I'm happy as well that Werner got his goal. Johnson's looking good again. Hopefully it gives them confidence.
I think Werner needed that yesterday.
Yeah.
He needed that, especially after that miss in the first half, because, there were lots of groans and moans about Timo Werner in that first half from the fans. You could hear it around the stadium. And for him to finally get that first goal, get that monkey off his back, because that first half, we were sitting there being like, that is just classic Timo Werner.
Well, after that miss, there was like a cliche Werner miss. It was like, if you were to picture in your mind what's like a standard Werner miss, it was probably exactly what it was in the first half.
But you got to give credit to him, dusted himself off at half-time, came out a much better player. I thought he was brilliant in that second half. He really was.
Yeah. And that's what we need him to do regularly. We need him to be getting to the byline, getting those balls across the face to go and cause problems for the defenders. Because when he gets in that mode where he's getting the ball, but he's not looking positive and he's not getting his defender, he becomes a lot less of an effective player. And that's something he needs to work on.
If he can put in those second half displays consistently for Tottenham from now to the end of the season, he gives a question to us, to the hierarchy, and to Ange Postecoglou if we want to keep him or not. Because then it becomes a real option to have Timo Werner, for that kind of money, coming off the bench, even starting in some games when we've got injuries, because you still want to sign another one if Timo Werner stays. But if he puts in performances like he has been prior to that, you probably don't want to keep him. But, if he can put those in consistently, it's a question.
Yeah, and you got to remember, he's only, a few games into his Tottenham career. It's not like he's been here a long time. And it's the first game he's played with Sonny up front as well. Different dynamic. I think that kind of helped, and maybe it worked a bit as well in that second half. So I'm excited to see where it goes with him. But I guess we have questions as to what we're going to do on the right. I actually thought Kulusevski had a pretty good second half as well. I thought he created some good chances, actually, in the second half. But it's a decision that Ange has to do, because Johnson came off the bench and did really well. Kulu was setting up chances. What does he do going into next week? Who does he play? Who does he drop? It's a decision to make.
Yeah. Another player I want to talk about is Yves Bissouma. I thought it was a much better display from him yesterday. Much, much better. More to definitely in the right direction for Yves. I thought from a defensive standpoint, he was flawless throughout the whole game. I don't think anything got past him. He was aggressive. He was winning the ball back time and time again. And I felt he even took it up a notch in the second half, where he became a bit of that driving force, which we know he can be. Yeah,
much more positive. Looked a lot more confident. There was a few moves that started because he was a bit more risk-taking rather than just playing it safe like he has been recently. I do wonder why he's played it a bit safer. I think cast my mind back to the City game, where obviously we're drawing and he's trying to dribble his way out of trouble and he gives that goal away. Ever since then, I feel like there's been a bit of fear in his game, like just in terms of
the Man City.
Man City away, when where we could have lost 3-2, but luckily we got a late goal. I feel like ever since that moment, like a bit of fear has come into his game. Like he doesn't try those risky things anymore.
Knocked him a bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he wants to play it safe all the time. He's just playing it backwards, and maybe like he thought at that moment, oh, maybe I'm doing too much, I'm risking too much. But I think he's gone too much the other way now. I thought there was a bit more of that yesterday. Riskier passes, maybe a bit more of a dribble when in a dangerous situation rather than just play the safe option. Still not as much as we've seen previously, but maybe hopefully he starts to get back to taking a few more risks. So I think that is what made him so effective. Is in that first 10 games, he was constantly taking risks and committing players and forcing them out of position, and it just created space for the likes of Maddison and Sarr and whoever up front as well to be more effective in the final third. When he's just playing it safe and playing everything in front of the opposition, it's a lot more easier for them to track everyone else and control what we're doing. So I thought it was much better from Bissouma. Still not the best we've seen from him, but it was a step in the right direction. Let's hope he can really build on that.
Yeah, and we're going to need him now for these, last quarter of the season. It's very good, in my opinion, that he's got back to that kind of form now, going in to these big stretch of games. And another player that I want to mention that we have mentioned already, but is Mickey van de Ven. What a performance it was from him. He had a real physical battle on his hands with Mateta, particularly in that first half, and I felt like he came out on top every single time. Every single time. I mean, the pace he has, the strength he has, everything about him is ready-made for the Premier League, and you're seeing that week in, week out from Mickey van de Ven. And Mateta could get no spare change out of him whatsoever. Even when it looked like Mateta was going to win the battle, Van de Ven just came back and absolutely bodied him. And I thought it was an unbelievable physical battle to watch from the stands, and albeit a mighty performance from Mickey.
Yeah, and I felt like there was even that moment, obviously, near the start of the game, I think it was, 10 minutes in, where they had their first kind of duel, and Van de Ven comes out on top, but obviously looked like Mateta had injured him, or, there was a very... it was a very strong challenge, and Van de Ven stayed down. He was actually hobbling for about 5 minutes, wasn't he? And then he stayed down, and we were like, "Oh God, has he injured him?"
We were fearing the worst at that point. Where we were like, "Please, Mickey, just get up."
But luckily for us, he was okay. He was able to continue, and Mateta barely laid a glove on him ever since. And I've seen Mateta, even against City, give him a lot of trouble. He's a very physical presence. He sows a lot of chaos. He just gets forward and he hassles and harries and doesn't give you a moment's rest. But thanks to Van de Ven, we were just able to deal with him and very, very comfortably, and he wasn't able to really trouble us that much. So Mickey was yet again so crucial to Spurs just stifling Crystal Palace and not allowing them to get up the pitch. And every time that duel seemed to happen, Van de Ven just came out on top and got Tottenham the possession back, and obviously that went a long way to winning us the game. So really expertly done by Mickey, and he's been so great recently ever since he's come back from that injury. He's been great the whole season, to be honest, and what a jewel we have, it looks like.
Yeah, and in terms of Rodrigo Bentancur, I did saw like flashes in there of like the old Bentancur, the silky touches and moves, but they were few and far between. I do feel like you're not seeing a fully fit and a fully on form Rodrigo Bentancur just yet, but you did see those flashes coming in yesterday, didn't you? Yeah,
I don't think he did anything badly, except for obviously he gave away that free kick, which people have criticised him for. I thought he was looking decent. Sometimes it seems like he was trying to force the issue a bit too much with his passing. Could have kept it a bit simpler, but then that's what I want as well. I want him to take risks. What I would say is when he was taken off for Johnson on the hour mark, he looked quite sad when coming off the bench, and I was looking over to him, and he went to sit down. He had his head in his hands like that. He was just a bit. He needed someone to console him because he just looked quite unhappy with his own performance. And obviously, he's quite self-aware about his performance not being at the level that it can be or should be, playing for this team. And I feel for him because we know how good he is on his day, and when he's at his very best, he's one of the best in the league. So I still think he's like building himself up, maybe still building up that match fitness. Obviously, it was a big choice from Ange to play him over Sarr, wasn't it? Because
Sarr was carrying an injury, Ange said.
Was he?
Yeah.
And apparently, we saw at the end of the game, he sat down a bit.
Ange said before the game that Sarr's been carrying a back injury since the AFCON, and he's not been 100% even when he has been playing. So he decided to give him a bit of a rest.
Okay, that makes more sense then. So let's just hope Bentancur can try and get back to form. I don't think he was terrible yesterday. I think he's definitely had worse performances, like the game against Brighton, where he was giving it away constantly. He wasn't.
I think that's his best display since the Man United game.
Probably, but you got to remember most of the time he's been taken off early. Yeah. And even this game he got taken off early. So I do wonder whether he's been taken off early because he's been playing terribly, or because maybe he's still not quite match fit.
I think, look, you heard from Alistair Gold what he said a few weeks ago, didn't he? That the Spurs medical team don't expect him to be fully fit until next season. You won't see the best of Bentancur till next season. And that's going to be very frustrating for him, very frustrating for everyone. But, that's why I think, he's very frustrated, because he's getting the minutes on the pitch. He's just not fully fit yet. And he knows he's got so much more to give. We know he's got so much more to give. So I think it's just going to be a patience thing with Rodrigo Bentancur, and the more minutes he gets is going to be the most valuable for him, and we're going to see the best of him next season. That's probably the situation.
Yeah, completely agree.
But look, it was really good to get 3 points yesterday. It was just unfortunate that we did have to concede that free kick because Palace, apart from that, just didn't have any chances on goal. Vicario, I think that was the only shot he faced yesterday was the free kick.
Yeah, he did force get that one save from Ayew, but he was offside, wasn't he? So
yeah,
I think that doesn't really count. But apart from that, I don't remember any sort of chance Palace had.
It's like the only chance that they had. So it was very, very annoying that with the one shot they do have, it does go in because we should have kept a clean sheet yesterday. That's the truth of it. And we haven't kept a clean sheet, I think, since Nottingham Forest in December, which is crazy to think about.
It was their only shot of that second half.
Yeah, which is
one, not even on or off target, just one shot they had.
It's mad.
That was from that free
kick.
It's mad.
That's how fully dominated they were throughout the game. And I haven't seen Spurs put in a completely dominating performance like that in a while, where from start to finish you couldn't really see Palace do anything, to be honest. And yes, it took Spurs a while to break them down, and it was quite frustrating at times to watch, but I always felt like Spurs were completely dominating here, and we were very unlucky to go in behind, and we got what we deserved right towards the end of the game. So it was a good performance. Hopefully we can build on this performance now, and it doesn't get any easier with going to Villa Park next week.
No, what a massive game, and it sets it up nicely. Obviously Villa got that last minute winner, which was a bit gutting. Looked like they were set to drop points away to Luton, which would have been a massive boost for us, and could have meant if we went there and won, we go level on points with them, which would have been really good. Wasn't to be. We're still in a decent position, and it just means we kept pace with them. 5 points behind with a game in hand, so all to play for. Look, I think the most important thing is we don't lose. If that gap goes to 8 points, then it's starting to look like a bit of a stretch. I think as long as it's at 5 points with the game in hand, you'll still fancy your chances. Especially, I know we got tough fixtures coming up, but so do Villa, and they got European football as well. So look, I think it's going to be a good race.
Villa's next 3 away games, they go to West Ham, Man City, and Arsenal.
That's going to be difficult.
3 away games.
That's going to be, and even in our tough run, we do have tough games. We go to Newcastle away, Liverpool away, but at least Arsenal and City are at home. So, we are better at home than we are away. Maybe when we get the crowd behind us in these big games, maybe we can really give them a game. At least Villa, when they play these really tough games, a lot of them are away from home, so it's going to be difficult for them.
And their home games in between there, they got Wolves, Brentford, and Bournemouth, and none of those are like particularly that easy. Wolves, I think, will set up exactly the way Villa will probably set up the exact way Wolves will probably want them to set up. And, if Neto's fit, I don't know, he went off at half-time yesterday. I'm not sure what the situation is there. They'll be able to really hurt them on the counter-attack. So I think Villa are going into a really hard run of games now. So I think even if we do lose at Villa, it'll be a kick in the teeth, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion even if we do lose.
It's not a foregone conclusion, but 8 points at this stage of the season is pretty significant, even with 13 games to go.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, with those games,
they still drop
a lot of those games.
Yeah, but they'll look at our games as well and think we're easily going to drop. So we just look. I think 8 points is a gap we don't want. That's for sure.
Of course we don't want it. Of course we don't want it. But I still think if we lose at Villa Park, there's still chances for us to bring it back. I don't think if we lose at Villa Park and it goes 8 points with a game in hand, then there's no overturning that.
No, I agree. But put it this way: I think right now we're still slight favourites for it, even with the points cap. I think if Villa win, it does go to them. They will become favourites.
Well, we spoke to Gary Mabbott yesterday after the game, and he said there's no chance Villa keep this up to the rest of the season. He's like, they're 100% dropping. Yeah. So believe in Gary Mabbott.
And then Watkins went and scored a second.
Yeah. But look, that is our match review yesterday. A very good performance at times at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday. Full domination in a 3-1 win.